Hello, and welcome to our Halloween themed journaling circle today. It's going to be brief, just a few minutes long, kind of a glimpse into what we do at our events that we hold at this point monthly online. We do this, but we do it for 2 hours when we do it online. So today we're going to do Release What Haunts You. I've got my Chemo journal with me. We're not going to go through the whole practice, but I'm going to teach you parts of the BMO extra practice. So you don't need a specific BMO journal in order to do this. All you need is yourself and a little bit of time for yourself. So thank you for coming and welcome to this space. This is my first time doing a live, so bear with me. So today the theme is releasing what haunts you. And thank you for taking the time to be here. Thank you for taking the time for yourself, because we are here for brief but powerful practice to work with the idea of releasing the stories that we hold inside, those things that are haunting us, those things that cause us to ghost other aspects of our life, right? So we're going to get really punny with this because I love a good pun. So, a haunting is simply an untold or unresolved story. We all have them. We are taught to suppress certain memories or parts of ourselves, but their ghosts will wander the halls of our minds until we meet them. Maya Angelou wrote, "There is no greater agony than burying an untold story inside of you." And this is typically a haunting, right? This is an agony of an untold story. And as Edgar Allan Poe would say, it is something that is rapping at our minds, right? So our purpose today is not to fight this ghost, but to finally sit down with it, to listen to its story, and in doing so, reclaim our own power. So I invite you to find a comfortable position wherever you are and close your eyes for a moment if that feels safe for you. And take in a deep breath and let it cleanse you. Let it out. And inhale again and let it out. Release the day. Release whatever has happened for you today. Release any expectations, any, oh, I have to do this or I have to do that. And just find the space for yourself for a few minutes because you absolutely deserve that. So, whatever journal or paper you have, go ahead and take that out. That's your journal and your pen. And we're just going to dive right into it without too much backstory. When we do our monthly events, we usually go through a lot of the psychology behind. We go through a lot of backstory and inspiration. But today we're going to dive right in. And the prompt for today, I want you to not censor yourself whatsoever. Don't worry about your handwriting. Don't worry about whether or not you're on topic. Really trust what comes up for you and go with it. If it changes, follow it. This is kind of like your haunted house, right? You're just following the memory, however big, however small. You don't have to come up with something that feels truly haunting. It can just be what you have to do today that's haunting you. It doesn't have to be a big storyline. So don't censor yourself at all. And I want you to take a few moments to write out the journal prompt I am haunted by, or the story that haunts me is. And just take, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes to write about the thing that haunts you, the story that you're thinking about, the thing that repeats for you. And I'm going to join you in this because I like to do these things over and over again. So this should be a memory that you can't shake. Maybe the way that someone has treated you, or maybe the way that you've treated someone, maybe the way that you have handled something. It can be a traumatic situation. It can be a task that is on your list that you just don't feel like you're getting to or don't feel motivated by. Let your mind go to whatever the very first thing is that pops into your mind when you think, I am haunted by. and take those minutes to complete the sentence of I am haunted by. And I'll check in with you as we go and with anyone that pops in. If you just joined, we're writing out for 10 minutes the journal prompt of I am haunted by. And anything that comes to mind, the first thing that pops up for you. go ahead and wrap up, or you can continue writing while I talk about this. If you just popped in, we're writing through the prompt of what haunts us. So I am haunted by, and you can start writing, you can continue writing, and I'm just going to talk for a moment about the things that haunt us and why. So, we talked about how they're in the catacombs of our mind, right? We're going with all the Halloween puns here. So it's like cobwebs in our mind. They're back there in the darkness. Sometimes we know that there is something, but we don't want to know what it is. Sometimes we think we know what it is and we want to paint that full picture, but simply assigning ourselves that like a task is what keeps it from coming to the forefront of our mind. And it can be really frustrated to be haunted by things because those things manifest in our life as reactions. They manifest as the times that we are mean to the people we love most and we are quiet in front of the people who are mean. They manifest in ways that we're constantly having an argument in our mind that doesn't exist. But there's the what if. What if I am challenged by this? What if somebody says this to me? What if? So we're haunted by a lot of the things that they have roots that go a lot deeper than the surface, but they blow up on the surface in so many different ways. And writing through that is one thing. We can put it on the page. I like to say, repeat it on the page so we don't repeat it in our life. But we can't stop there because that doesn't take away the repetition. That doesn't take away the things that continue to bubble up, the things that overflow. And there's a degree of self-understanding, a bravery in what Eckhart Tolle calls awareness of awareness, or Maslow would call self-actualization. So it's essentially just an area of what I call through the BMO practice, we call knowing. And I want to challenge you today with what you're haunted by. Just that kind of internal question, that rhetorical question for yourself. Is this knowing? Knowing being something that you don't just know, it's not on the surface, but you know as a practice, as something that you have been vulnerable to awareness with. So you want to ask yourself, is this knowing or is this a belief? And not all beliefs are limiting beliefs. But when they're not limiting, that's what would be called knowing. And I like to tell people at the end of a long BMO practice session, at the end of the funk method, which is the center of the BMO practice, knowing is that final step. And I like to tell them that knowing, even when it's difficult to know, will always pave a path forward. But a belief usually is questioned. It usually sends you in circles. You can question that belief. It doesn't necessarily pave that path forward. We can trick ourselves into thinking that what we believe paves that path. And that's when we get stuck in that loop of this is the same, and therefore I will react. This has happened before, and therefore I'm going to react. But that is belief, not knowing. It feels like knowing, but that right there is the key word. Feelings are fleeting, they're not permanent. They feel permanent because they repeat, but it is not the situation that is repeating, it is the feeling that is repeating. So whenever you're haunted by something, remember to ask yourself, is this something that I know, like deeply know? Or is this a repetition that I have assigned a limiting belief to? Knowing will pave the path forward, beliefs will not. So, usually at this point, we would jump into the funk method and we would spend another hour or more talking through it and having that kind of self analysis that we do with the BMO practice. But we're going to actually learn another part of BMO today, which is part of the BMO extras. And if you have a BMO journal, that's all in the front in your guide. And this part is called the I get to practice. And I get to is something that, a lot of us have learned to kind of spin things on its head and find that appreciation for it. It comes from Brené Brown, her concept of enoughness. And she's totally made up that word, and she's allowed to because she's amazing. So the concept of enoughness. But the reason I want to bring it up today is because usually when it's something that haunts us, it's really hard to think, oh, I get to go through this. Like that feels so bad. That feels almost like toxic positivity, and it can be. And so we don't necessarily make that connection. But this is not finding a reason to be grateful for the pain or the trauma itself. Instead, I want you to use the I get to practice as an acknowledgement of yourself, as self recognition of the way you have had to survive. So, this haunting could be something deep from your past. It could be something that's happening in the here and now. But either way, I want you to connect to what you are, the glimmers of your truth because of it. So, for example, let's say you recently lost a job, like just as an example, and that what is haunting you, what you wrote about in your journal, is a career failure. You're haunted by what it means. You're embarrassed that you lost your job. Maybe it's because you don't know enough, maybe this or that. But when we move into an I get to practice, it isn't I get to be unemployed because that would be dismissive. That would not feel like a knowing. That would feel like you're shaming yourself, right? But this is an opportunity to say, okay, because I am going through because I'm going through this career change, I get to pursue a career that truly aligns with my values. I get to change into something that I connect with better, that I'm excited about. Maybe I get to redo my office. I get to design it differently. I get to meet new people and work with new people and hopefully find people that I love to work with. So that's what I mean with kind of shifting into this, what we call in the final step of the BMO practice, we call it purposeful positives. And this I get to practice that comes from so much of Brene Brown's work is a really good way of just coming back to the present. If you are a BMO journaler, I still encourage you to move through the funk method with whatever you wrote today, or, pop into one of our events where we go through that and we spend a good 90 minutes sitting together in group going through that. But another example of an I get to reframing is maybe you have some pain in your relationship right now. Maybe there's a painful breakup, not necessarily with a romantic relationship. There are breakups of all kinds with friends, with with career we just went through. So whatever it is that you're disconnecting from, maybe that I get to would be not I get to be lonely. That doesn't sound true, but because I know the depth of this pain, I now get to offer a truth. I now get to sit with myself and reinvent who I am. I get to sit in a non-judgmental empathy with a friend of mine who is going through the same pain. So there's always a little bit of something where you can honor the way that you have survived. So, for the absolute deepest hauntings that you wrote about today, for things that feel like a profound trauma, something that has repeated as neglect in your life, you have to be incredibly gentle with yourself in this moment because you're never going to say to yourself, because this terrible thing happened, I get to. I have been there in my life where I have dismissed what I went through by saying, oh, but I learned from it, I got to, and that was just such a terrible belief system. In hindsight, I wish I could just hug that young girl and just be like, "No." But today, I can reframe that trauma, I can reframe that truth, and I can know how I survived. So that might look like the strength I had to find within myself to survive that trauma now allows me to know the absolute depth of my own resilience. So that might look very different for you, depending on what it is that you've gone through or you're going through, whatever it is that has haunted you. So take a few minutes to sit with that It might take a while for you to connect, to move past the tendency to want to shame and blame the situation. And the reason that you might automatically go there is simply because, unfortunately, society teaches us. They teach us that this resilience is beating ourselves forward. And I don't want you to beat yourself forward. I actually want you to take note if that is your tendency and mark that as your next prompt for your next journaling process and for your next funk method. But for now, sit with and figure out what it is that you get to notice about yourself. You get to connect with yourself and honor yourself. What is that I get to about your haunting? Do you get to be a better mother because of what you know and what has haunted you? Do you get to be a better partner? Do you get to be a better employee? Do you get to choose differently because of what you learned? So take a moment to acknowledge the choices that you get to make as a result of empathy and resilience and wisdom and courage and belonging to yourself. So just take maybe 3 minutes. So just take one more minute to think through that, to honor yourself today and the things that you've chosen, and the ways that you have changed as a result of the things that have haunted you. That you get to do this work, that you get to connect to yourself and the stories that you hold, the things that are deep in your truth. So today you did courageous work. However brief it is still courageous to show up here because you're showing up for yourself and you're showing up for something new. You're trying something and daring something. You named a story that came to the forefront of your mind of something that is haunting you, which means that it is a story, a thread that has been repeating. Maybe it's not the exact story, but that feeling, that belief that you assign to it, it goes deep. You acknowledge the weight of it, and then you wrote a new ending, an ending where you are not the one who is haunted, but the one who has survived and grown stronger. This alone will not heal you, but allowing yourself to explore deeper and deeper the feelings that come up for you and working through them using the funk method if you are already a BMO journaler. The more that you do that, the more that you are positively reframing your showing up with a dozen different therapies without feeling like you're doing the work. The more you're willing to repeat it on the page, the less you're going to repeat it in your life. And that is the work. I hate to even call it the work because I am against tasking yourself. So it's really showing up with meeting yourself as often as possible. So take this brief practice from today as recognition and enoughness for yourself. Let it be the story that guides you forward. You have told the untold story, and in doing so, you have begun to set yourself free. So thank you for joining me today. If there's something that you have enjoyed doing, please let me know. If you just popped in, it is the first live that we've done, but I do many events. So if you want to join us for a whole 2-hour deep dive, we usually spend 90 minutes in it and 30 minutes of education and therapies behind it and really going through what would be beliefs and whatnot. We do have in-person events and we have online events throughout the whole rest of the year. We have quite a few. So you can just jump over to bemojournal.com to see any events that you might want to come to. And we'll continue to do a lot more of these because I feel like this space is needed for all of us, especially this time of year. So thank you. I like to say thank you for being the change in me and allowing me to be part of the change in you. So have a fantastic Halloween. Have a great Friday and be mindful of the things that haunt you. Until next time, bye.